Okay, so I have a bit of an update. I've been playing with this thing all day. I can say that I like it a lot more than I did yesterday. Okay, reason is I did a couple things. One, I devised a bunch of different kind of tests to check if the electrostatic is working or doing something different. You know, I want to know the difference between standard mode and electrostatic. You know, and it was hard to really judge that easily. So I came up with a bunch of tests, and I'll explain those in a second. The other thing I did was I noticed this thing was spitting a bit. Okay, a lot of foggers or sprayers will spit a little bit in the beginning, so you have to be aware of that when you're doing this all the time. That, you know, sometimes you want to keep your nozzle up when you start and stop things, because you don't want to spray something with a lot of liquid right off the bat. And this didn't really do that as much as it would just spit a lot, especially yesterday when I had a different kind of disinfectant in it, okay? And I read through all the manual and everything, and it basically, troubleshooting says that if your liquid isn't as thin as water, you're going to get spitting. Or it didn't really say you're going to get spitting, but it says if you have spitting coming out of the nozzles, then you either have a clog or it is, you know, too thick of a liquid. So it's too much weight coming through those nozzle tips and kind of just sputtering out a bit. So I changed, for now I went to straight water. I know that sounds, oh no, I'm not really using a disinfectant, but I just wanted to try it. So that did seem to help quite a bit. The disinfectant I was using yesterday was a little thick. I would say, yeah, you know, it would leave a bit of a residue. So maybe it clogged up the tips a little bit. So you're going to have to really work with your disinfectants to see what works with this machine. Like anything we do, it is something you got to look into and investigate. So I'm happy to say that as long as I can find a disinfectant that is completely as thin as water, which we probably have several 55-gallon drums of something that will work fine, I think we'll be fine with that. It's not so much as the micron size that you're focused on, it's almost like the distance of your spraying, okay? So if your object is here and you're in the short range, you know, the short range seemed to be about this much. I know it says it's 60 microns or 65 microns at that point, and it is a very light mist, but it doesn't go very far. So again, it's all about that kind of thing. The medium range was about 4 to 5 feet, which felt pretty good. It wasn't saturating everything too much, and it seemed to give a good coverage. The high was, you know, you get too close to something, it's soaked. Okay, so you have to be, you know, a good 6+ feet away, depending on your machine and how you feel, you know, dealing with this. You often have to move around a bit too. The more you stand still and focus on one thing, the more that thing is going to be soaked, like any fogging situation. But so far, I've actually, this has come up a few notches in my mind, and I like it a lot. I'm going to keep testing it, of course. Now, the tests that I went through to make sure that the electrostatic thing was doing something, I devised a whole bunch of tests. I was trying to get round poles, so that I could spray one directly and see where that pattern laid versus, you know, spraying a round pole with the electrostatic and seeing if it would wrap around a little bit. And to be honest, it's very difficult to do that, because what was happening was, you know, the front of a round column is the closest thing to the nozzle. So of course you're going to get a spray pattern on that, and it's going to start saturating that before you have enough liquid wrapped around for me to really feel it. So what I did was I tried a whole bunch of different things. I had different kinds of cardboard out that I would shoot at different distances and see if that soaking pattern felt the same way. I had different kinds of woods in there. These were basically materials that I could see moisture on there pretty rapidly, so I could see once it was wet, I knew. But the thing was, what I realized is that electrostatic is really an attractive you know, technology, right? So what it's doing is it's flowing and it's trying to attract to things. So what I realized is if I went up against something flat and I used the electrostatic, I could kind of do my spray pattern as long as I didn't focus on one thing. It would pretty much spray all along that area, and I wouldn't have a lot of residual moisture on the floor. Whereas if I didn't use the electrostatic, my spray pattern would be wet, moist, whatever you want to call it, damp, but the floor would often be soaked. Okay, so I'd leave a bit, a lot more on the floor than I wanted to. So, you're wasting material there. Also, what I realized is if I took that same column that I was trying to focus on and didn't focus on the column itself, in other words, I had a metal wall here and a round column here. So what I decided to do is spray between them. Okay, so without the electrostatic, it just shot right through and barely any of this got damp at all. Okay, no coverage really. When I turn on the electrostatic, I shoot through the same exact open area. Again, column here, metal bay door right here. What would happen is it would shoot out and then kind of attach to those. So it would find a target versus ignoring it without the electrostatic. Once the electrostatic was on, it would kind of spray between the things and kind of mist up against all those surfaces. Whereas, if you just sprayed it straight through, it would just go right through and ignore these two things. So I can definitely see now that it's working, but it's very difficult unless you have a test that makes sense, that you can figure these things out. So I did a lot of testing with it. So as far as I can say right now, I love it. Like I said, it takes getting used to. Every piece of equipment we have has nuances to it, little things that you got to learn about it. I will say that, you want to make sure these nozzles stay clean a lot. I can see them getting clogged up and becoming an issue, which is like any of my foggers or sprayers, but it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. So read that manual, look through your troubleshooting, make sure you have an idea what's going on. But as far as the price and the way that this thing works, it's not too heavy to wield around all day. It's a little heavy, but it's not the end of the world. This gets on your back, not too bad. But again, I love Ryobi, so I'm a little biased, but it's a good machine. So far, I'm pretty happy with it, and I can take this out with me and go, especially like places like schools or churches or things where you're trying to focus on pews or chairs or desks and things like that. This will do the job nicely. Again, when I'm going crazy trying to do a whole room, we use the big boy, and that just indiscriminately will fog everything and anything. But I do like the fact that this is doing what it said it's going to do. It's just going to take a little bit of nuance to learn it and get a disinfectant that works for you, that doesn't spit out or sputter. And you're going to, like everything else, have to get to know your piece of equipment, know how far off of things you should be, how fast you should be moving your wand or your tool, and you should be good there. But it's going to take practice like anything else. It's an actual pretty awesome piece of machinery here. For the price, you can't beat it. I know a lot of these other companies that had that market cornered are going to be pissed. But Ryobi did it again. They come through with a lot of tools that we're wishing we had. And now I've got another tool that I love, that I've got tons of batteries for. It was cheap in the sense that I could buy a bunch of these for the cost of the same backpack Victory model. So I give it a thumbs up. I like it. So if you like this review, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. We're going to keep doing technology. We're also going to push into some of the visuals that we get to see once in a while, the crime scenes and things like that, if that interests you. I do try to avoid some of that for my clients' purposes, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you.